Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AAA Show. We are here after a long break from last season. Apologies for not getting any episodes to you guys. I'm hoping to be back here full time now and get you caught up on the leagues across Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Lots of hockey going on nowadays. A little different than last season. Hopefully, we can get through a full season this year. But let's just get right to it. Let's break into the Alberta Elite Hockey League weekly recap. Looking back to last weekend, Airdrie on the road in Red Deer gets it done 8-6. The Bison's looking pretty strong this season. Winners of 6 of 10 so far, 2 ties, looking good out there. Calgary North Stars went into Lethbridge with a 3-2 win. The Calgary Buffaloes 6-0 over the Calgary Royals, where the CAC Greg Distributors 4-3 in Sherwood Park. A lot of road teams getting it done last weekend as we continue on to the Calgary Northwest Flames, the 6-1 win over the Maple Leaf Athletic Club. Grand Prix in St. Albert falls 5-3, while Lloydminster Bobcats went into the Southside Athletic Club's the 4-3 win there. Heading into Sunday's action, the Grand Prix Storm 4-2 over Red Deer. Red Deer, a little setback from last season, one of the top clubs after last year's shortened season, off to a slow start, but I'm sure they'll find their path here not too long, while the Calgary Northwest Flames went into St. Albert with another win of 2-1 as they continue their hot stretch. The Fort Saskatchewan Rangers 5-1 over the Canadian Athletic Club. The Calgary Royals in a high-scoring affair, the 6-5 win over Southside. The Calgary North Stars 3-2 over Okotoks, while the Calgary Buffaloes pulled through the 5-0 win. Great play by the goaltender there. And the Sherwood Park Kings bounced back with a 5-3 win in Lloydminster. Looking at the season so far, the Fort Saskatchewan Raiders lead the North Division. Excuse me here, sorry. They have 8 wins, 2 ties, undefeated so far through 10. Great action there so far, 8 wins in a row. St. Albert 7-1-1 in 9 games. Dropped their last one, but before that they were undefeated through 8 games. Most notably, Maple Leaf Athletic Club, as we hit the 500 teams, 5-5 through 10. Same with the Grand Prix Storm, Lloydminster 4-5-1. I believe they weren't able to play last year, so good to see them back in the league and ready to go. As we head into the South Division, the Calgary Flames, red hot. They dropped the first couple games this season. They started off 0-3-1. They have now gone 4 wins and 2 ties in their last 6. Red hot there, that has propelled them to the top of the standings. Airdrie not far behind, 6-2-2 record. They dropped their last one, but before that they're 6-1-2. Pretty respectable start. Lethbridge, one of the top teams typically in this division, 6-2-1 through 9. They're in action tonight, while the Calgary Buffaloes 6-4-1. They were kind of my pick to be near the top of the division this year. Still early, only 2 points back at first place. They've won two wins and 1 tie in the last 3 games, starting to pick it up after a 500 start. We hit the Calgary North Stars there, sitting 3-4-2, as you can see. And as I mentioned, Red Deer down to the bottom, 1-9. A lot of veterans removed from that team. Not quite the start they managed for there in Red Deer, but I imagine as we head in further into season, we'll see them climb the standings. Heading into the Saskatchewan Male AAA Hockey League. A lot of action in that league so far. Just getting you caught up here. last Friday, the Blazers, which is full of top prospects for this upcoming WHL Bantam draft. If you ever get a chance to watch the Blazers, I would do it. They looking pretty strong, pretty young team. A lot of the players on that roster, you will see their names called here in December. As we transition into Saturday, October 30th, Battleford went into Moose Jaw and dropped a 4-3 decision. The red is hot. One of the hottest teams in Western Canada right now, the Regina Pac Canadians, continue their dominance this season with a 3-1 win over the Prince Albert Raiders. In Notre Dame, a high-scoring affair in Tisdale, 8-7 Trojans struggling to get going here this season. They played a lot of tight games, but they've currently started a one win and 9 losses and 1 overtime loss through 11 games. Not the start they wanted there in the Northeast Saskatchewan. However, playing some tight games to that least some confidence there. The Blazers continue their stretch with the 3-1 win over Estevan. Estevan, as some of you might not know, one of the expansion teams last season, or I should say relocation. They got their first AAA team in the league last season. Tough year to start, but doing all right this season with a 4-9-0 record. Hanging in there, but a lot of progress to be seen. As we look at the Saskatoon Contacts, usually one of the big dogs in the league, they are also in action on October 30th. They went into Warman and dropped a 6-4 decision. Warman Wildcats, one of the big stories of this season. They currently sit at a 12-2-0-1 record. Also one of the expansion franchises that came in last year with Estevan, using that big population near Saskatoon to draw some kids to come play there as they sit second in the league right now. Great to see for that organization, able to step in and be competitive so early in their organization's history. Yorkton Maulers went into Swift Current there and dropped a 3-2 shootout loss decision. Swift Current was off to a hot start this year. Many may have not predicted that. However, losing one of their star players to the Brooks Bandits, their captain, Cormier, showing some signs of them missing him there, but they've been able to stay in some games. They won this one without him. Still looking good. As we transition to Sunday, Battleford 6-2 bounce back win over Moose Jaw. Notre Dame fell 3-2 to PA. Maulers come back, and after dropping a tight one in a shootout the night before, they were able to pull a 2-0 win. Great performance by goaltender John McPherson. I'll be talking about him later on in the show. Regina Pac Canadians 7-4 over Tisdale, continuing to put that puck in the net. Ben Reich leads the league in points with 30 points so far this season. Big contributor there again Sunday night. Warman continues to win with a 5-4 win over the Saskatoon Contacts. Contacts in unfamiliar territory, 3-5-0 to start the season with 3 overtime losses as well. Normally you see them near the top of the standings. However, rebuilding a year. They lost some key players to the WHL this season. And the other Saskatoon team was able to snap up some of those local talent that you'll also be seeing in the draft. As we transition into the second, Notre Dame came to Swift Current, deciding with a 5-2 win. Legionnaires dropped their second in a row. That puts them at an 8-4-0-1 record, good enough for 4th place in the league. And Thursday, the PA Mintos, 6-1 win over Battleford, while the Blazers dropped a 4-3 win loss to the Warman Wildcats. That would have been Wednesday, as we head into Thursday. The Moose Jaw Warriors fell 7-0 to the Regina Pac Canadians. The Pac Canadians, no one seems to be able to stop that offense so far. 13-0-1 so far this season. Though that offense seems to be rolling, to see another high-scoring game there. Continuing on Thursday, Yorkton stays hot. It's a third tight game they played in a row. Yorkton 2-1 win over Notre Dame. Before the last 3 games, Yorkton was sitting at a 1-11, 0-1 record. They have now 2-0-1 in the last 3 games. A lot of that's good play goes to John McPherson, the goaltender for the Yorkton Maulers, as he red hot in his last 3 games. He will definitely be there and to be included in our 3 stars of the week. Last night, Warman continues their dominance with a 4-2 win over Tisdale. The Swift Current Legionnaires fell 4-5 to Estevan. Estevan gets their 4th win of the season. Swift Current drops their 2nd in their last 3 games. Pardon me here. Sorry. First episode back, a little rusty. Hopefully you can just bear with me here as we take a look at the current standings. As I mentioned, Regina Pack Canadians, 13 wins, only 1 overtime loss. That offense has been red hot. Been tough to stop as they are playing some good hockey there with the Pack Canadians there in Regina. As they will play the Saturdays there in Notre Dame as the Hounds look to put an end to that streak, and then they'll pardon me. Okay, they play Regina. Looking at Warman, 12-2-1 as I mentioned as well. They got Yorkton this Saturday, hoping to keep it going there. Notre Dame 9-3-0. That's a big game this weekend here against Regina, 2 of the top teams in the league. That takes place Saturday tonight at 8 p.m. If you get a chance to track that down on the internet, I'm not sure if it is being aired, but that'd be a good game to tune in as Notre Dame tries to shut down one of the top teams in the league. Legionnaires quietly 8-4-0-1. They've had some off years in the past. Coach Chris Kelleher has got that team rolling this year. Good to see for the community of Swift Current as they can hopefully see some good hockey this year. The Broncos are also a team that's been struggling the past year. So between those 2 teams, good to see some progress coming along. PA 8-4-0, 17 good enough for 5th place there. The Blazers 8-2, least amount of games played. I'm sure you'll see them a little higher in the standings by the end of the year. As, like I said, a lot of top prospects on that team. That you'll see the name called next month. They'll be one of the teams to beat this year. Once they get a few more games under their belt, I'm sure they'll be a little higher in the standings. Contacts, as mentioned earlier, down there 3-5-0-3. You can't win all every year, but it's a rebuilding year for them, and hopefully they can get her going here. But as we'll take a break here for a few commercials, and we'll be back with the Manitoba League. I'll have JD Haughton, former SAS Sports Show host, on to talk some Manitoba hockey, as he's been out east now, kind of covering that league a bit with the Kenora Thistles. So we'll see y'all here in a couple of minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the AAA Show. We're back after a long hiatus. Get back into it here. Talk about the Manitoba AAA Hockey League here. I'll have JD here joining me. JD, welcome back to the show. It's been a long time coming. How's it going, JD?
Good. Just enjoying the sunshine, the last of it here in Kenora today. And then we've had some rain and snow these last, I would say earlier last week, I mean. So it's nice to have a little bit of sunshine before winter comes. But no, I'm excited to be back on the show again. And I remember I would come on quite often when I was living back in Saskatchewan on your show. So it's nice to be back.
Yeah, good to have you. For those of you that don't know, JD's been doing some play-by-play for the Thistles home game. Is that correct?
Actually, I just been doing some camera work. Actually, we haven't been able to get our play-by-play broadcast up on the hockey TV yet, but I've been doing some camera work as well as covering their pre and post game write-ups as well. So
yeah, it's a good weekend for you to jump on. The Thistles had one of their better weekends last weekend of the season. Just what you see from that team last weekend that allowed them to have some success finally.
Well, I was very impressed. The leaps and bounds that the Thistles have come since the beginning of the season. That was a tough weekend against Brandon, which is the top team in the league. They haven't lost in regulation. I think they lost one game in a overtime or a shootout, so they're still undefeated. And that's Brandon's a very, very skilled team. They're a very well put together team, and a lot of those kids have played together for many, many years. The Thistles last weekend, what I liked on them, they were hard on the puck. They capitalized on the power play, which is something that they had trouble with in the past, and they didn't give up. And it's in this league, sometimes the score gets up there, and there's some mental errors maybe in third periods and things like that, but the team never gave up. And actually, like on Saturday, it was, from the story that I wrote, it was a night of firsts. Obviously, they had their first win, but for the first time this season, they led a period going into intermission, which was I think it was the first period. They were up 2-1, and they led a period in shots. The coach got his first U18 win, so it was a great overall game that was played, and they were up 5-2, and they gave up 2 goals, and they really closed the door when it came to chances there late in the third period, and they were able to pull off the win, which was great to see because their last chance of winning a game was in their second weekend against Yellowhead, where they lost 2-1, which was a tough win because they came back out and they lost 7-4 the next day. But their team is starting to come together and starting to play collectively, which and that's, I've talked about this before. When you have a regional team like Kenora and some of the other teams in the Manitoba U18 Hockey League, is that you get a bunch of players that have never played together, and you have to put together a team. Like, it's not like in Winnipeg or in Brandon or some of these bigger areas where a lot of these kids have played together throughout their whole hockey career. And I want to give a shout out to a couple, to 3 players that have really proved themselves this season, which is Jet Mantenko, he leads the team in points with 19. I think he's got a point in the last 4 or 5 games. Nicholas Fagnili, he's on a 6-game point streak right now going into tonight. And actually, I'll have 4 players. Brandon Gustafson is on that top line with Mantenko and Fagnili, and he's really playing well. He's kind of like the aggressor on that line. He'll go out and he'll put the body on, and he'll get hit, but he'll get right back up and hit that player that hit him. And also Brady Butvin, because Brady Butvin's he's on a little 3-game point streak, but he scored 2 goals on that Saturday night win last weekend. So a lot of their key players, a lot of their highly skilled players are finally starting to come together and play together. And their penalty kills looking good. They are. What was I going to say? Sorry, lost my train of thought.
No worries. I'm rusty as well. So
they've been really good on their penalty kill. Just not allowing those guys to get open in the slot, and they're trying to keep the shots to the outside, and as well as their power in over the Winnipeg. Oh, there we go. it was a tough loss against Winnipeg, but they're coming into this weekend really good. And I was really, really happy for them to win last weekend because that was, it was tough. They could have got 4 points, but they only got the 2. 6-5 win on, or 6-5 loss on the Sunday game. But you know what? They're really starting to come together, and their record does not resemble how they've been playing as of late. And I'm really excited for them, going into this weekend.
Yeah, I know it was definitely good to see them. They get that win the first night, and a team like that, it's very common for them to come out the next night, come out flat-footed. Kind of a letdown spot as we talk about it in the sports gambling world. But they played them tight again, and that's probably good for the confidence. And I'm sure that should help this weekend when I believe they're in Pembina Valley this weekend. A team that's also down there in the standings. If you can get at least split that, that'll go a long way for the confidence.
Yeah, I was talking with the head coach Scott Parsons earlier this week, and you know what? As much as he would love to split the weekend and get a win, he wants to get 4 points because, like he told me, Pembina Valley is a team that they've had in their sights, and they know that they can play against these teams, and they have that confidence going into this weekend. So I would imagine that they're going to play hard both games, and like you said, Pembina Valley, I think they're sitting 9th or 8th in the league right now, 4-6, 4-6-1. And so they're looking for a win as well. But, I hope to see the Thistles come out with 4 points this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. So let's kind of go through the past back weekend here. We'll look back to, Winnipeg, one of those top teams in the league. I believe they're 11-0-1 right now. 7-1 win there against Interlake. Brandon 6-1 win over Parkland. Eastman 4-2 over Winnipeg, and then Pembina Valley 9-0 over Norman. Just look at that first day. Anything that sticks out to you?
I previously watched Winnipeg. That was the recent team that I watched, and they're a team that they're not balls to the wall all the time, but they have from what I saw, they have a very quick transition out of their own, a good breakout. So by the time the puck is in their end, it's out of their end within seconds, and it's already into the opposing team's end. So they put a lot of pressure, and I think that's where a lot of their goals come from. From what I saw against Kenora, at least, they put a lot of pressure. They get those turnovers, and then they're probably another one of those teams that a lot of those guys have played together throughout their hockey career, so they kind of know where each other is on the ice. And they probably practice these things in practice, of course, as well as just screwing around on the outdoor rink or things like that. But as well, that Pembina Valley Norman, as I've been told, they won 9-0 over Norman, but the next game, Norman came out and won 4-2. So that's, it's another one of those things where it's a tough loss because they won big the night before. And then they, obviously something must have happened. They must have came out flat-footed, or Norman just wanted the game more. And then you look at Brandon too. Brandon continues their winning. I think they've only been in a handful of close games this season. Most of the games that they played have kind of been outcomes like this, 6-1, 7-1, not really giving up a whole lot, but they have, I think 4 of their four Wheat Kings are in the top 4. So they have 4 in the top 4 of the league scoring right now. I think the leader has like 33 points, and I think they've only played 12 or 13 games. So it's just incredible the start that they've had this season. They're the defending champions as well, back before, I guess, when COVID hit. So, and the Winnipeg Bruins, they're a strong competitive team, but so is Eastman. I think Eastman is up there. I think they're sitting 3rd right now, 10-2, I want to say.
Yeah.
But they're another competitive team, and those scores reflect the way that these teams' seasons have gone. At least on Saturday.
No, for sure. And it's looking at Brandon. Parkland is a pretty decent team. As of late, I don't know, several years, I guess. I know when I grew up in that area, they were normally near the bottom of the standings, but over the years they built that program up, and they're before that past weekend, they were 6-4-1, I believe, before dropping the 2 straight to Brandon there. And just looking at the scores there, it kind of shows you how well oiled of machine Brandon is right now. You know, they're only the 1 overtime loss, and to beat a team 2 times in a row that's up there in the standings just kind of shows you kind of what the talent level is there. Going back to your Norman point against Pembina Valley, I just can't help but wonder if maybe it's that travel first night. I know Norman, sorry, as you corrected us already. Norman, that's a long hike to Pembina Valley from, I believe they play up in Thompson, right?
Yeah.
So that's a long trip from where I'm from, and I'm from 3.5 hours north of, or more from Pembina Valley. So that's a long hike.
Yeah.
Couldn't help that'd be hard in the legs, and it kind of shown the next night that they were able to come back and catch Pembina Valley off guard. Looking at Saturday, we already talked about Brandon 7-4 and Pembina Valley 4-2. The Bruins and Eastman in a battle of positional standings there. 6-5 Winnipeg over Eastman. You mentioned 2 good teams there, and the Wild 6-1 over Interlake, as well as the Thrashers 5-3 over Yellowhead. Anything that you got on those teams?
Trying to see here. You know, probably I've yet to see the Thrashers play this season. That's the one Winnipeg team that I've yet to see. I think they're coming in here in the next week or 2. But Yellowhead's a competitive team. Like when they came here, it was a tough 2-1 loss to Kenora, but then they came back the next day and rebounded. But and it could be another one of those things like we talked about, like, you know, with Norman, about them being, you know, the travel coming into to play. You know, for Yellowhead, they're traveling from, I want to say it's Shoal Lake up on Highway 16 there, and they're driving, you know, it's a 4 or 5 hour bus ride, and that might not be a lot to some people, but to a bunch of kids, that's all they're doing is sitting on a bus, and they got to come play a hockey game that same day. It's a struggle, and you know, Norman usually when they come down, they play 3 straight games, you know, to make it their weekend worthwhile. So they're playing 3 in a row. So I can understand, and that's, I think it's like an 8-hour drive from Thompson to Winnipeg, you know, so that's a struggle there as well. But you know, Yellowhead's a competitive team, and you know they looked like they held in there against the Thrashers at least, so they, you know, it was good to see that. But you know, like we were mentioning, Brandon, it was their like I saw them, they came out, they won 9-0 against Kenora, and then 6-2 the next day, the opening weekend of the season. So they're, I think, I would imagine U18 is the same as the AAHL with, you know, you have those teams that are going for 3 years are just unbeatable. You know what I mean? Like, and then obviously all those kids go on to play junior A or go to the dub, and then you start that rebuilding process. And I think that's what maybe could be happening in Brandon and in Eastman, and, you know, for the Wild as well. You got a bunch of veteran players that have played in the league for 2 or 3 years, and now finally they're coming together and they know how to play in this league. And it's nice to see. And obviously Kenora, they're still working out their kinks, but there's a bunch of teams in their sights that they feel that they can play against and they can beat. So, you know, we'll see what happens in the next, you know, before Christmas and then after Christmas.
Yeah, and another thing that could be playing a factor is, you know, none of these teams played last year, so it's a great opportunity from some of these teams that normally be in the bottom end of the standings, almost as a reset, right? You know, they could catch some of these teams a little off guard that wasn't able to continue the chemistry last year, that, you know, maybe gives you a little more of a momentum and fresh slate. I just want to apologize before I had the slide up. I currently had the standings wrong on the Winnipeg Thrashers and Interlake game last night. It was not an 11-3 win for Interlake. Sorry if there's any Interlake fans watching. They fell 6-5 to the Thrashers. Just just looking at there, sincerely, Kenora boy, Winnipeg 11-3 in Kenora. Just what you take from that game, and Winnipeg's a very skilled team. The Kenora came off 2 really well played games on the weekend. It's just kind of a letdown spot against a very talented team.
I don't think so. They had, like, from what I saw, like in the first 3 minutes of the game, controlled the game. They were in the offensive zone, putting pressure, getting as many opportunities as they could onto the net. But then once Winnipeg scored that first goal and they came back, I want to say it was 30 to 40 seconds later, they scored their second goal. It kind of just blew the wind out of their sails, and then they didn't look like how they played the weekend before. They weren't knowing where their teammates were. They just kind of, and then Winnipeg took advantage of that, and they kept just adding on, and Kenora was only down 2-0 going into the second period. Like, so that's an easy score to come back to. Because in that Southwest game on Sunday, Southwest was up 3-0 after the first period, and Kenora came back and scored 4 in that period to at least go into the third period tied. So it's not by any means a score that they couldn't come back from. They've done it before, but it just when they got that 2-goal lead, it just felt like they just weren't playing as a team. They weren't taking that time to look and see where their teammates were. So they would just throw it up the boards, and then Winnipeg would just throw it right back in. And then it was just that kind of all night. But there wasn't a whole lot of penalties either. I think there's only like 5 or 6 penalties that whole game. So it was a clean game throughout. But and then Winnipeg, they just kept adding on and adding on and adding on. And then after that, I've been in those scores before, and it just, I wouldn't say that you give up, but you're like, kind of, we're at this point. What do we do? Like,
you don't have the confidence. You're almost, not like you're playing to lose, but you're playing like you've already lost the game, so that the drive isn't as there as normal, I guess. I know you see that a lot with teams that they play teams that always have their number, and it's always like a 5-0, 6-0 game where it's just they come in and it's just that team that always has a number gets the first couple goals, and they just shut down. And it's
and that could have been what happened. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I didn't get the chance to talk to Scott after the game, but it was kind of one of those games where it's like, what do you say after that game? All you can do is just forget and go into this weekend with rebounding and try to do what you can. And that's what the Thistles are going to do. And I hope that they can go into Pembina Valley and just give it to them, because the thing that's kind of been the Achilles heel of the Thistles this season is the first period. I did the math yesterday, and I think that they were outscored 24-6 in first periods. So I talked to Scott about that, and he was, just like any coach would probably say, they want to push the game early on in the first period to their opponent. And so they can get that first goal, or they can get that second goal. So they're not always coming from behind, because that's the worst part, is always playing from behind is a terrible position to be in. Some teams are really good at it. And then some teams, once they're down 2 or 3, they just lose their confidence, like you said. So that's their game plan going into this weekend, to try to outscore their opponent in the first period, and to, just try to put as much pressure as they can on the Hawks, in that first game.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's good to see that league back and going. It must have been a frustrating year for everyone there. And, there's been some good hockey early on, some tight games, some not so tight games. But, early on, considering, there isn't a huge substantial gap in the standings from about, let's say, 3rd or 4th place to 7 or 8. Like, it's, there's teams hanging around, and even once you kind of get out of that 8th spot, those teams are, a couple wins away from getting back into it. So it's
and I got to tell you a story here. So I learned this once I moved out here, is that obviously the league was only to play a certain amount of games last year, but because Kenora is in Ontario, they had to actually, their U18 team only got, they got accepted to play in the Superior International Junior Hockey League, which is the Junior A League out here in Northwestern Ontario, and then some in the Northern United States. And so they ended up actually playing against, they played 4 games that year or last year. And yeah, it was like, I just can't imagine, a 16-year-old going up against, 20-year-olds. So it was an eye opener. And Scott told me at the beginning of the season, he's really excited for these kids to finally be able to play against kids their own age. Because that's that could blow your confidence going, getting rocked or getting lit up if you're a goalie by a bunch of 19, 18, 20-year-olds. And it could maybe not want you to lead you to not want to play hockey anymore. But I just thought that was interesting.
I wonder if that it could almost help some players in the sense that, you're playing at a higher competition that, the transition back this year, you might have a little more confidence knowing that you played against a little higher level hockey. And, even if it meant a couple of shifts, you're able to dangle around a couple of guys and get in deep and get some pressure on, the fact that, you can do that against teams way out of your league that, okay, the top teams in this league, maybe we can do that too.
Yeah. And you're totally right. I feel like there's two sides to that, with the confidence and things like that. I agree with you. But it's nice that this league's back. It's a very competitive league. There's been a lot of players that have come out of this league and gone on to bigger and better things. I think it's just, it's as competitive as, the Saskatchewan league out at your way and then the Alberta, the AEHL. And then that it's not called Major Midget anymore in BC, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Going to go to a quick commercial, and then we'll come back and I'll talk about my 3 stars of the week. We can break down those guys. JD will be happy. There's a goalie in there, so there might even be 2 goalies in there if I remember correctly. So we'll be back after a quick message, and I'll see you soon.
Audio Jungle.
Welcome back, everyone, to the AAA show this week. We have gone through Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba weekly recap on the show as we head to our final segment. JD's going to stick around. We'll talk about my 3 stars of the week across the 3 leagues. Let's head into it. John McPherson, the goaltender for the Yorkton Maulers, had himself a heck of a week for a team that's fighting to get back going after starting the year in the bottom of the standings. 3 games played. Apologies, a typo there. He actually had 2 wins, 1 shootout loss. One of those wins was a shutout, a .970 save percentage, .950 goals against average. It saved 103 saves out of 106 shots, putting the team on his back to take home the 1st star of the week. And 2nd star, JD will like this. 3 games played, 3 goals, 4 assists for the Kenora Thistles. Got this was their first win and kept them tight against. Apologies, I'm blanking on the team now. Southwest, yes.
Cougars.
And third star goaltender for the Calgary Buffaloes, another goaltender. 2 wins, 2 shutouts, 46 saves. Hard to leave him off there when you can blank a team in back-to-back nights. Just want to get your thoughts on these guys. I know you already kind of touched on Jet, but if you want to expand a little bit.
Yeah, obviously Jet's had an incredible year. He's 19 points. I think he's about even. I think he has 9 goals, 10 assists, or the other way around. I'm not 100% sure. But he is a very highly skilled offensive player. He can get around guys and put the puck in places where you never thought that it could go. And and it's not even just the offense. He's very hard defensively too. He's out there on the penalty kill as much as he is out on the power play. He's had some chemistry with his line mate, Nicholas Fagnili, and both of them have played really well. But Jet's he's puck hungry all the time, and he's a very, very skilled player. I just want to talk about the first star there. I cannot imagine, and I know Yorkton's had another tough year, and I think they only have the 2 wins on the season this year. It's a tough season for them, but when you've gone through a 3-game span and you've stopped 103 shots, 103 saves, that's, if you do the math, that's roughly 35 shots a game.
Yeah.
So, when you can get a shutout in that as well, that's great for the confidence. It's great for the team's confidence as well, because they know that they can rely on that, on their netminder there. And, it seemed like he had a really good week for the Maulers, a team that's, like I said before, a little bit struggling a little bit, trying to find their bearings a little bit in the league. But I know you were talking about earlier when I jumped on, you were talking about the Saskatchewan League. You got some good teams in that league. Obviously, Regina's hasn't lost yet this year. So, when you're going against the caliber of players that are in that league on a nightly basis, and you come up with this sort of this week, that's huge for the confidence. And on the Calgary side there, he didn't have as many shots, but coming out with 2 shutouts, that's big for the team as well, and I'm not sure who they played, but if it was a rival, it was even that much sweeter to get 2 back-to-back shutouts. And that's a hard thing to do as a goalie as well, to get 2 shutouts in a row. And especially in that league where I can only imagine that it's a very competitive and highly skilled league, especially if you play on one of those Calgary teams.
Yeah, and going to Jones's, those 2 games were against the Calgary Royals and the Airdrie Bisons, some of the better teams in the league, in the division, I should say. Going back to John McPherson, his last 3 games, 37 saves out of 38 in a win, 1 goal against, again, a win against one of the top teams, Notre Dame. And then he stopped 38 of 38 against Swift Current on Sunday, and then stopped 28 of 30 in a shootout loss. So a couple probably more saves in the shootout, not getting the W. It's an amazing stretch, and hopefully that can maybe give some confidence to the guys in front of them to play a little harder and maybe get a few more wins coming up here.
Yeah, and it just will build your confidence, like I said before. And he's gotten the team's only 2 wins on the season, and he picked up a point for the team in the shootout loss. So it seems like they've found their number 1 guy going forward. And obviously he's proven himself in these last 3 games playing against some tough teams. It's excuse me. It's a great thing for himself and for the team to have those kind of numbers.
Yeah, exactly. They've only got the 2 wins. They have 2 overtime losses. They're only 3 points back of a team that has become well known to Western Canada, Saskatoon Contacts. Given they're having a bit of an off year, they lost some of the recruiting battle to the Blazers, but I'm sure they'll come around. They had a good squad, but that's one thing to look at. You look at the teams ahead of you, and they're teams that might not normally be there, but they're names that have beat you pretty good in the past, and gives you kind of a target on your back, target to give, right? And
yeah, and to be in a center where there's a junior A club too, it just gives you more recognition, to possibly fill in and be an affiliate player for that team, because they've seen you before. They know what I know that they play in the same rink, so there's that opportunity there for him to pursue a possible junior A career if he keeps this play on, because obviously the Terriers are there, and they probably have coaching staff that come out to the Maulers games and some scouts and whatnot, just to see what the plan for the future, what the future players are looking like in Yorkton. And it would be nice to future.
Yeah, for sure. And with the draft being in December, it's putting a little more eyes on you earlier on in the season. The scouts are trying to get that final look, get a better taste of where guys stand. And even if you're a third year who's not getting drafted, but undrafted in the past, or even a guy that's maybe a little lower on a team's prospect rankings, it's a good opportunity for showcase yourself to other teams, whether it's the Yorkton Terriers or the Portage Terriers or the Winnipeg Ice. There's eyes looking for players all over the place, right? So it's a good opportunity to play well early on, and get those good habits going and carry it on to later on in the season.
Yeah, it's nice to see players to get recognition from the bottom end teams in the league right now. And I imagine that their record doesn't resemble how hard they played this season. I'm not faulting them for that. It's just nice to see some players from the lower end in these leagues get some recognition, and because all the recognition right now is probably going to the Warman Wildcats, or the Brandon Wheat Kings, or the Winnipeg Wild, or the Regina Pat Canadians, and I'm not sure out in Alberta, but I imagine those top teams their players are getting a lot of looks, and it's nice to see some of those players and those bottom end teams get a little bit of love. So
yeah, for sure. Sometimes those players in the bottom end teams, they can get in that mentality that we're not winning, we're not scoring goals, we're not getting points, it's not translating well on the score sheet. I just want to look at a guy like Connor Vidston, who played in Yorkton last year. He wasn't lighting it up, but he had some decent points on the team. And as a guy that goes to a lot of Bronco games this current, I've seen a lot of good things out of him. He stands out well. So it's it's just because you're on a bottom end team doesn't mean you're not going to go anywhere, right? So just
it's funny when I heard that name, and I'm like, that name sounds familiar. Because obviously with my show, I had on the head coach of the Maulers there last year, and when I was going through their stats, that name kind of popped out to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, he played in Yorkton. Nice to see that he got picked up by the Broncos, and obviously them having I would say a subpar year. They started the season 2-0, and then they've I think they lost 7 or 8 in a row.
Yeah, and they won last night.
Yeah, then they won last night. So it's nice to see, the Broncos. They got a lot of young talent. Obviously, there with Brady Bierney. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, or Bernie. But he was the leading scorer, one of the top scorers in the U18 AAA league there, and I think he played for the Regina Monarchs. So up there with Kalen Lind and Sam Aremba. So it's nice to see, he got his first goal. I think it was last weekend.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. They had a lot of guys score their first WHL goal. And I think Connor Vidston got his first WHL goal last weekend, I think. I can't remember, but
it was one of the past weekends.
Yeah.
They all blend together nowadays.
Yeah.
But
that was fun.
Yeah. All right. So we'll put this to a recap, I guess. If you missed any of it, just rewind, and once the show's over, and you can go back and track down the Alberta League or the Saskatchewan League or Manitoba League, or watch it all. I'll hopefully start to be bringing this to you a little more regularly. Apologize for not getting any episodes out yet. A lot of things got in the way. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next week.